Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. Hey everybody, we're going to have a little talk today about something I thought might have actually been getting a little bit better. I thought we were maybe moving ahead a little bit, and recent interactions I've had with the world at large have by and wide completely changed my mind. Now, the thing I'm talking about is kind of the reemergence of the wild Karen. And you all know what that means these days. The middle-aged, complaining about everything, completely dissatisfied with every iota of any kind of service. They think they're entitled to things that because they're special and their needs come first, and they're going to treat everybody around them like crap. Now, I know that's stereotypical and it's maybe a little overhyped, but the simple fact of the matter is it's the truth. These people are out there. They do exist. And for a while, I just wasn't seeing so many of them around. And I was enjoying it. I thought maybe people finally started to grow up and realize the world didn't revolve around them. It turns out I think most of these people were probably just hiding and ordering everything to be delivered to their house. There's a reason all the grocery and product shopping delivery services had such a huge boom in the last year, and I think it was those people. However, it generally seems to me that these, and while I know the handle Karen automatically conjures images of middle-aged white ladies with entitlement, there are plenty of guys that are every bit as guilty, and some of them are even worse because they're also chauvinistic pricks, and they think because they have testicles, they're somehow entitled to some sort of mandatory respect or something more that they haven't done anything to earn, and they really don't deserve. They're not better than anybody, despite thinking they are. They're just assholes. But I've seen these people out there, and it's like they've been bottling up all the frustration they've been storing because they haven't had these poor service people to dump on for a while. And at the start of the pandemic and the lockdowns and the product shortages, they were everywhere and they were showing their ass and they were getting called out on it, which was fantastic. And I thought maybe that actually had some impact, some lasting impact would have been fantastic. Driving these people into hiding or actually maybe forcing some awareness so they should realize how terrible they were being to their fellow human beings. But instead, I think they just kind of went into a hibernation, kind of like cicadas, only not nearly as long of a break from them. And they've apparently started reemerging into the wild, and I've seen them at several stores. I don't go out all that often. I didn't go out all that often before they started telling us we had to stay home. And just for the record, for anybody who asks, I think it makes a certain degree of sense to try and increase social distancing. I don't necessarily think it has anything to do with the virus. I mean, the virus, I'm not one of the people that denies it. It exists. It's a shitty, horrible way to die if you are one of the people that it hits really hard. And it's terrible. And my heart goes out to anyone that has lost someone due to it and anyone who has suffered through it. And it causes, the people who it hits hard, it causes lasting damage to their respiratory systems, to their lungs, to their vocal cords, to their... It's terrible. It really is. For the people who it hits badly, it is a horrible thing. And I don't wish that on very many people. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm not a saint. I've never claimed to be. I've wished some pretty horrible things on people in general. And I'm sure at some point I've probably been out there dealing with somebody and just looked at them and gone, I hope you catch the COVID. I hope the Rona gets you, you bastard. But ultimately, for the people who are suffering and being hit by it hard, it's a terrible thing. If you're sick or if you're susceptible, you need to stay the hell away from everybody else. A little courtesy. Do I think the government should be shutting down industries and mandating that certain things are okay and certain things aren't? No. That is a massive overreach on the part of the establishment because it's costing people jobs, it's costing people their lives. The bills aren't stopping because your business was closed by the government. The bills are still piling up. You still have that debt to pay. There's no relief in sight. The politicians are literally doing nothing to address the matter because they'd rather sit around with their own special interest crap and worry about themselves instead of the people that they were elected to serve. And what everybody seems to be forgetting is this whole shutdown, lockdown measure was never about stopping the spread of the virus. It was about keeping the hospitals and the healthcare systems from being overwhelmed. And I think the second spike that is coming and is showing every trending factor of happening is directly related to the fact that instead of keeping the hospitals in a situation where they didn't get overwhelmed and things were handled properly, and then everybody got to start getting back to their lives, everything was shut down for so much longer than was originally planned that when people finally could start getting back to a normal semblance of life, everybody just went off the deep end instead. But I'm not going to harp on that too much. I mean, that's a constant thread in pretty much everything I say. The government sucks. It needs to be rebooted. It needs to be fixed, and career politicians are the problem. But we're not talking, other than the fact that a lot of these career politicians are probably extremely Karen-like in their interaction with people they consider to be less than themselves, who, let's face it, they think that about pretty much all of us. But what I'm talking about specifically at this point is your John Q. Public, garden variety, you and me, working stiff, punching a clock 5 days a week, just Joe average, everyday, normal type person, jackasses that I've been running into out in public again. And it's like, it was so nice not to have to deal with you people. You entitled, self-righteous, lame-ass people that seem to think the world owes you something. You're no more special than the people you're treating like shit, and the disconnect is so just real and blatant. And you're going out in public with no shame, and so you got these people walking around back to the habit of dumping on the people that are there to help them out and get them what they need, the people that are restocking the shelves. And people are starting to panic again, and all of a sudden the shelves are starting to empty off again. No matter how loud you yell at that stock boy, there is not going to be a magic pallet of shit in the back that they're hiding from you. So just stop it. What the hell is so hard about that? And realistically, if you think acting that way is somehow justifiable or somehow gonna make what you want to happen, like your attitude and your just self-righteous crap is gonna somehow force the world to accommodate you, you are a terrible friggin' person. And you're probably not listening to this. This is more just for people that agree with me, who are gonna hear this and pass it to other people that agree with them, hopefully. Spread the word around, get a little love out there, and realistically, they're going to go, you know what? I'm not alone on this. You people are assholes. And it's the more we spread it around, the more we call people on it, and it's entirely possible to call these people on their bullshit without stooping to their level. That's one of those things I need to emphasize. We need to stay the good guys. We need to be the hero in this particular story. So if you see somebody who's out there treating their waitress or waiter or yelling at the busboy or yelling at the stock people or anybody in a service position, being in the service industry sucks, particularly now. And it's a high risk, no extra compensation or reward, horrible crock of shit that these people are getting handed. As decent human beings, it is really our responsibility to help step up for them, because they can't call these people out without jeopardizing their employment. And a lot of them, and I'm saying this as these are my brothers and sisters in arms, because I've spent 25 years in the hospitality industry. I know how much people suck. If you're there and you're there as a fellow customer and you see this crap going on, be the good guy, be the better person. Call them out on their shit and make a point of trying to intervene. The servers can't do it. The stockers can't do it. The clerks can't do it. You can do it. They can't have you fired. They can't get you in trouble. And as long as you act like the bigger person and don't stoop to their level and you act like an adult and you don't start screaming about how right you are and everything else, just kind of point out how ridiculous they are being, they literally can't do anything about it. And it's a thing these days. We've all got a phone on us. They start acting like assholes. Bust it out. Start recording them. Tell them they just became famous and they're going viral. They're either going to start trying to threaten you, or they're going to start, their focus will come off of the people that can't do anything about it and may shift to you. At which point you say, you don't like it, stop acting like an asshole. You don't want to be called, if you know your behavior is wrong enough that you don't want it to be made public, maybe you shouldn't be fucking acting that way. And maybe, just maybe, we can get these people checked and we can reintroduce manners and decency into our society. Because there was a time where people would not dream of behaving like that in public. And the ones who did were looked at like the assholes that they are. And I'm all for progress. I think the human race has so far to go before we get to where we should be. But there are things that we have lost that were worth keeping. And I think manners and civility is one of them. And so, if you see one of these wild assholes out there, call them on it. Put them on blast. Tell them they're going viral. There are so many of them these days that seem to think that they are somehow entitled to act like assholes, but they know they're assholes because they don't want to be called on it. You drag them kicking and screaming into the sunlight, and maybe they'll stop. And if they see themselves getting shared over and over on social media, maybe they'll start to question what it is that got them there in the first place. Now, granted, there is a lot of mental disconnect in these people, and there's a very real chance all they're going to do is get mad at the world and try suing any of the social media providers because, let's face it, that's right up their alley. I'm not wrong. Everybody else is. But it's a fun little thing. We can do that. It can be a game. We can make a point system. We can make it a drinking game. Every time you get a video on it, one of your friends buys you a shot. Every time you stop a busboy from breaking down in tears because some soccer mom with nothing better to do and a bad attitude's ripping into him and trying to get him fired because there isn't an extra pack of quadruple layered quilted toilet paper in the back, regardless of how many times she screams about it, because all the other assholes came out and bought it all. One of your friends buys you a pint. There's all kinds of options about it. Make it fun. Let's make it a thing. Let's bring civility and decency back into vogue. How about that one? I mean, coming at it as looking at things from the middle child of the generations right now. We are capable of being so much better than we are. And there was a time where it seemed like things were starting to get good. And then these entitled assholes start showing up. And I'm sure that a lot of them have always existed, but for some reason, everybody got more comfortable with the idea of, I deserve this. And I am entitled to what I want. And it doesn't matter how I treat other people. And to a certain extent, it almost feels like we've lost some of the progress we made. I mean, yeah, we've made some really decent social strides these days. It's become a lot more common for people to be accepted for who they are. And we've gotten past, to a certain extent, a lot of the petty little hang-ups that people seem so focused on for so long. We've stopped saying, well, not all of us, obviously. There's always going to be some holdouts and some shitheads and that are going to be holdouts going, I don't like me them there darkies, or whatever horse shit it is that they're hung up on. But we were making so much progress. We were getting so much better off. We were getting things were starting to be cool. People were starting to just be chill, and it was nice. So we got back to being shitty. But it's not too late. It's not over. We can still do something about it. We can still call them out. We can still put them on blast. It's something we can do. It's something we should do. And now, as far as things that we can do go, we can take a real quick break. And when we come back, we're going to touch on something else real quick. And a little summary, some plugs, and we'll be back after this brief break.
I'm Mo Rocca, and I'm excited to announce Season 4 of my podcast, Mobituaries. I've got a whole new bunch of stories to share with you about the most fascinating people and things who are no longer with us. From famous figures who died on the very same day, to the things I wish would die, like buffets. All that and much more. Listen to Mobituaries with Mo Rocca wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, guys, thanks for enduring the mid-roll break there. Now, going forward from this, this is kind of going to be a real, just brief thing I want to touch on. And then I got a few little quick recommendations I want to throw out. Some things that I have come across in the last couple of weeks since the last time I did a Aaron Recommends session. And so we're going to do that. But first and foremost, I want to talk about something. It's kind of a current event thing that's been coming up. And it's kind of funny to me in the respect of pretty much everybody at this point that has listened to any of the backlog of episodes or who knows me in any way, shape, or form knows how I feel about both sides of the political extreme spectrum here in the United States. On the one side of the coin, we've got the Proud Boys who real briefly almost seemed like they were trying to just be patriotic chauvinistic bastards instead of racist shitheads. I mean, they had like a Cuban guy and a couple guys of mixed race descent that were key figures. And now you've got the original founder of the group coming back out saying they were token figureheads. We were just trying to get support. But no, we're on board with being white supremacist pieces of shit Nazis. Now, I've addressed this multiple times in the past. It's not something I ever really see my stance on changing. Hating somebody because of their complexion or what they look like is the most basic shit someone can do. It is a waste of functional hate. It is a lot of energy over something stupid. Anything that someone does not have a say in, does not have control over, is not a justifiable reason to hate them. And I'm not saying that as someone who's like, I have love in my heart for everyone out there, because I don't. I hate a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. I have no tolerance for people that get their hate on over such stupid shit. It's so entry level. It's so basic. It's pumpkin spice lattes basic. It's fucking horrible. You're not edgy. You're not controversial. You're a douche. On the other side of that coin, let's go to the far left. And I'm talking the extremist left, the anti-fascist movement, which the original concept, I'm all for anti-fascism. I think fascism sucks. The problem is, you've got two facets to this. You've got the people that are actually anti-fascist, that are saying, we don't want your fascist beliefs being shoved down our throats. Then you've got the other people who are waving the same banner, using the same corporately designed logos, or maybe they were designed by some college kid in Berkeley, who knows. I don't care enough to do the research to find out where the Antifa logo came from. But that movement, much like anything else that is that radical and extreme, and I'm all for radical extremes as long as they're properly applied, but in this circumstance, you're not anti-fascist if you're insisting that everyone believes what you believe or you're going to hurt them. That is the definition of fascism. If you want to be anti-fascist, what you say is, don't force your beliefs on me and I won't force mine on you. That's what being anti-fascist is. Being the mindset of you will accept what I tell you to accept or we're going to beat the shit out of you isn't. It's not a complicated concept. If you think violence in the force of making other people go along with your beliefs is an acceptable tool, you are no longer anti-fascist. You are a fascist. That is the definition of fascism. Is a forced adherence to your beliefs. And you're also pieces of shit. You're assholes. If you think you can somehow bully everyone else into acceptance, that's not how acceptance works. You cannot generate love with hate. You cannot beget acceptance and understanding and tolerance by being an obnoxious shithead. And it's realistically, the Antifa concept has been co-opted by a bunch of people who seem to think that goes hand in hand with being a socialist. Socialism is another prime example of forcing your beliefs on other people with the threat of violence. It's not okay. It's not a more enlightened way of looking at life. If it was the case, it would have worked somewhere. There are no records of people leaving capitalist cultures to go to socialist paradises. Or if there are, it's usually there is other details involved, like flight to avoid prosecution. And they're going there because the wealth, or by comparison standards wealth, that they amassed under a capitalist system can go much farther in a corrupt socialist state. And that's not me trying to be an asshole or telling people how to live their lives. That is simple, basic economic theory and facts. You find people that are plugging socialism as a general rule, they're not from socialist countries. The ones who lived under it and have gone to other places where it doesn't exist will tell you how horrible it is. Anybody that grew up, any Generation X people, anybody that grew up in the 80s and 90s, when the Soviet Union was first the big bad group on the block, the other world power, the ones America were in the Cold War with, their system, which was supposed to be the idyllic version of socialism, collapsed under its own hubris for a reason. The system doesn't work. And all these ultra-liberal, college-educated, $90,000 bachelors and underwater basket-weaving having assholes that seem to think the rest of the country should pay off their debt because that's fair and socialism is fantastic, you guys are kind of missing the point. And it's gotten more voice under youthful people saying, oh, well, we know best, but you're idiots, and you're indoctrinated, and you've been forced into that. And it's not entirely your fault. We let it get that bad. Sorry. Our bad. Fix it. Pull your head out of your ass. And that is just realistically, like I said, it's something that came up this week. The militant arm of the Proud Boys, or however you want to look at it, announced they're assholes, so I wanted to touch on that real quick and say, you're assholes, the other guys are assholes. Anybody that thinks forcing their view on people through violence is the answer is an asshole. Now, I'm not discounting violence. Violence serves a purpose. Violence has a place. Sometimes violence is necessary. Shitty fact of life, it would be great if it didn't have to be that way. But realistically, yeah, sometimes violence is the answer, but it's more in the application is how you have to look at it. People that are willy-nilly jumping into it and taking glee and joy in it, not the right thing. And I'm actually kind of reminded of, I forget who said it, it's a quote I read somewhere, that the only thing that protects peaceful men is the men capable of doing great violence in peace's name. Or it's something to that effect. I'm probably slaughtering it. But the general concept is you have to be willing to do violence without reveling in it to be able to apply it righteously. And that's going to be my piece on that for now. All right, and lastly, we're going to touch on a few quick things for Aaron Recommends segment, I guess you'll call it. It's not going to be a whole lot of stuff this episode, just a couple things I wanted to touch on real quick. First off, I would like to get to a couple the local restaurants that, unfortunately, when I did the local restaurants episode, did not get back to me quick enough, but both guys got in contact with me since then, so I do have the permission to throw their names out there. Both very cool places, worth checking out if you are local in the Shanahan, Manuka, Morris area. We've got Country Blaze Barbecue and Pescolino Osteria, which are both, they're basically neighbors. The Country Blaze, they had a food truck for a while, and now they've got a space, and the food is great. I'm going to put links in the episode notes for their websites. You want to check it out. Both places are fantastic. Pescolino Osteria is Italian and seafood. They have fresh house-made pasta. The food there is fantastic. It's worth every penny, and they've got outdoor dining setups, and they're dealing with the COVID restrictions and doing carry-out, and they could use your support. So if you're listening to this and you're in the area, go check them out, all right? And then also, as I've been doing research and trying to better this show, I've been listening to and networking with a whole bunch of new podcasts, or at least they're new to me. Some of them are just new in general, so people just getting started. Some of them have been around for a while. And so I've got a few, they've kind of been the ones I've been plugging every time I mention where somebody posts something on social media like, hey, I need a new podcast to listen to. And I've kind of met them through networking through different social media groups we belong to and things like that. And so real quick, just if you're looking for something cool to check out, these are things I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. These are the ones that I've been listening to a lot, as opposed to listening to one episode, just trying to get a feel for them and then deciding they weren't for me. These are the ones where I've been going back and binging their back catalogs every time I'm either in the car or going for a walk or working on homework, or pretty much any time I've got background playing, it's one of these shows. So we're going to start out. The first one is Let's Start a Cult. It's a younger guy. He's based out of Canada. He has guests on and they discuss different cults throughout history. And it's a newer show. There's only a few episodes. They're totally they're informative. They're funny. You learn stuff that you probably didn't know about. I mean, I've kind of laughed because listening to them, I knew some information already about a couple of the cults, but I still learned things that I didn't know about previously. They had an episode about the cargo cult, which I had to laugh because I really didn't think a lot of people had heard of that. I heard of it because of a book I read years ago. But anyway, it's a really cool show. You guys should check it out, listen to it. I'm sure me referring them, my handful of regular listeners, isn't going to make any huge impact, but I'm saying this for you guys. Check it out. It's a cool show. From that show, I actually found the next show I'm going to recommend, which is called The Dumb Found Dead podcast. It's about people that basically died in stupid ways. It's a couple guys. They're pretty damn funny. I laugh on a regular basis listening to these guys talk, and it's a nice kind of change of pace for me to have something that's making me laugh on a regular basis. And hopefully you guys will listen to it and laugh at some people that basically died due to their own stupidity in one way, shape, or form or another. Yeah, it's a little bit dark subject matter. They cuss not as much as I do, but some, so it is an adult-themed, and it's kind of a dark issue, but they find the humor in it, so check them out. And then to kind of take a little swing in a different direction, I've been listening to this podcast. It's a group of people out of Detroit. It's a music-based podcast called the Infectious Grooves podcast. They talk about vinyl and the resurgence of vinyl. They got some cool music guests on there. I'm now working my way through their back catalog of episodes, and it reminds me a lot of when I used to be able to hang around with my friends and we'd sit around and talk about music we liked and kind of bust each other's chops and talk about what we'd been listening to. And they tend to stay more in the, I don't want to say deep cut kind of stuff, but not necessarily the real pop mainstream type stuff. So you might learn some really cool stuff. I've found some pretty cool things just based off of recommendations. And if you're on Spotify, they actually put out a playlist with every episode that has the music that they talked about or the genres that they talked about or whatever the relevant thing is that you can play if you want to find out what they're talking about. So that's another cool thing. You want to give them a chance, check it out. And the last one is a true crime series that I've started getting into called Terrible People Doing Terrible Things, and it's two ladies. They discuss the psychology and just all these different crimes and just horrible things people have done throughout history, and it's fun listening to them talk. It's informative, it's educational, it's well executed. It's not like just two random people being stupid. There's actually some significance to what they say, and I've been listening to their show as well and just really enjoying it. So if you get a chance, those 4 podcasts are something I really think you should look at. If you're in my neck of the woods, go check out those restaurants. I'm giving you a personal guarantee. The food's fantastic. You won't be disappointed. And so for now, that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you get a chance, check us out on social media. There's a Facebook group, there's Twitter, there's Instagram. I Had to Say It podcast is pretty much the trigger for all that stuff. Or you can check us out online at www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to all the social media and to all the platforms that we are streaming on. And there is contact information for any of the restaurants or local businesses or musicians that we've talked to or will be talking to, or anybody I have mentioned in any of the previous episodes. So thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.